In this video, we're going to be modeling another space frame, but for this one, unlike the previous one where we modeled it on just one divided surface as a curtain panel, a pattern-based element, in this case, we're going to be modeling that as a two-layer space frame. So basically, we're going to have the ability to control the bottom layer, as we did in the previous one, but then also the top layer as well. Now, if that doesn't make sense now, don't worry. As we go along through this video, you will develop an understanding of what we're trying to achieve. Now, for modeling this, unlike previously, when we go here to Families and then go to New, we used the curtain panel pattern based. Now in this one we're going to be using the generic model adaptive. This one gives us a little bit more versatility. It's a little bit trickier in the beginning because you don't have that nice layout. But don't worry, it isn't that complicated. So we're just going to get started with this family template. Hit open. And as soon as it opens up, it looks like this. So it basically looks just like the massing environment, but of course we don't really have those that little grid for our pattern or our divided surface pattern. So what we need to do is to, well, figure out a way to create that panel within this environment. So the first thing we need is 4 points. So we need 4-point elements here on the bottom. So those are those 4 corners. So I'm just going to zoom in here a little bit and go to point element, and then I'm just going to place 4 points just like this. Hit the escape key a couple of times, and there we go. So all 4 points are hosted here on this level 1 floor plan. Now, when you select this point, it's just a regular point, but you do have the ability to make that point adaptive. So what I'm going to do is select all 4 points, make sure that they're all adaptive. And now, as you can see, this is adaptive point number 1, this one's number 2, number 3, and number 4. So these are all 4 corners of our space frame, or of the space frame part that's on the bottom layer. Now we need some way of having some sort of a connection to the top layer, and for that what I like to do is move to one of the elevations. Let's go to the front elevation, select the level here, and then go to copy, and just copy it up a little bit, maybe something like 2000 millimeters, just like that. Go back to the 3D view, select that upper level, and then just place a point here. Now I'm just going to make sure that that point, if I can only select it, there we go, is kind of in the middle of all of these 4 points. There we go. So we have 1 point in the middle on top, and then we have 4 points here on the bottom. Now for this upper point, you also want to make it adaptive, so you just go here to make adaptive, and there we go. So we have an additional adaptive point on top. Now again, we want to connect all of these points together using reference lines. And just to make that skeleton or that construction or the rig for our family. So the approach is the same as we did previously. You just select 2 points, you go to spline through points, and then you just make sure to check is reference. And then you basically repeat that process. Spline through points is reference. Same thing here. And then here as well. And then you want to repeat that, but for the upper point, so you want to go like this, spline through points is reference, like that. Now, if you cannot make the cross selection, you can just hold the Control key and then select both of those. And again, spline through points is reference, and then just one more. There we go, spline through points and is reference. There we go. So now we have our rig. Now, of course, for our rig, we have to apply actual geometry here. And just kind of move this around just to show you it's working. There we go. So you can move this around, that's the point. So what you want to do now is to host some profiles along these lines. So you want to go here to the point element, make sure to set it to draw on face, and then basically place one on each of these angled ones, and then you just need one on one of these bottom ones. So that's the idea. Next, you want to move here to the circle tool, just a simple model line, and then you want to go to make sure that the draw on work plane is selected, because we want to kind of pinpoint the work plane, and then use the set work plane option, or you can use the WP shortcut. So just go here, just like that. Let's make this 100 millimeters, that's okay. Next, set work plane, let's go here. We can use 100 there as well. Next, let's go to this one. Let's do this one now. And finally, let's move over to this one. Perfect. Okay, now you want to select the circle, hold the Control key, select the reference line on which is on, and then go to Create Form, just like that. Same thing here. Create Form. Create Form. Create Form. Perfect. And then you want to select all 4 of these. So hold the Control key, select all 4 sides, and then select the circle, Create Form. Perfect. So now we have our space frame created. Now, of course, you can play around with the diameters, make it a little bit different, but the point is this is now working, and that's exactly what we want to have. There we go. Okay, so now let's see how can we implement this inside of a project. So let's build a 2-layer space frame. So for that, what we need to do is go here to File, go to New, go to Project, or alternatively, you can go to File and then New Family, and then you can choose the conceptual mass. Let's go with metric mass, or alternatively, you can go here to File, New, and then use the conceptual mass, which is immediately going to open up that metric mass. Now, once we're here in the conceptual mass environment, what I'm going to do is just select the vertical front-back plane. And then I'm going to add just a couple of lines, just a couple of horizontal lines, one like this, and then one exactly above that, maybe at a 3-meter height distance. Okay, the next thing that I want to do is select one of these lines and then go to Create Form. And then let's select the edge here, extend it a little bit, select the kind of the other edge, extend that a little bit, there we go. So we have a nice little surface. Next, let's create another form here. Again, let's extend that, maybe to the same distance. Select the other side, extend that as well. Perfect. Okay, now we can select these 2 surfaces and go to Divide Surface, just like this. And once we have that, let's go here to the Properties panel, and we're going to be playing around a little bit with all of these constraints. So here we have the U-grid, and let's change that to fixed distance. Same thing with the V-grid. Fixed distance, and for both, let's set the distance to 3000 millimeters. That's the distance that we've used previously, so I think it's a good round number, so let's go with that. And then also for the justification, I'm just going to change that to beginning for both sides. Hit apply, there we go. Okay, so now we have 2 of these planes, just one above each other, and they both look exactly the same. Now, the change that I want to make now is let's select one of these lines, and let me just move this a little bit. There we go. So I want to move the top one and offset that by half of this length. So, for example, here where it was all the way to the edge, here let's go just halfway off one of these kind of segments. So just move it in just a little bit. There we go. Let's go to the 3D view. Yeah. Perfect. And then on the other side, we can select this and then kind of just move it towards the inside a little bit. Perfect. And then we want to have the same approach here on this side. Move it in. And then on the other side, this one is going to move the whole grid. Perfect. So move it in and just move it halfway in. So halfway off one of these segments. And this is exactly what we want to have. Perfect. Next, you want to select the top surface and then go here to Surface Representation, open up the display properties and turn on the nodes, click OK. Same thing on the bottom one, Surface Representation, display properties, nodes, turn those on, and here we go. So as you can see, the whole thing is kind of offset, and here we have a point in the middle and then the point down or up here. Perfect. Okay, now it's time to apply our curtain panel. Now, unlike the previous one where we've selected the pattern and here apply the panel which appears over here in the properties, this one is going to be a little bit different. So what you want to do is go here to this component, go to load into project, there we go, and now as you can see, you kind of have the ability to host that on these points. So what you want to do is find the kind of the bottom points like this, go 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you remember, the bottom are kind of 1 through 4, and then you want to kind of orbit on top just to see where the top one is. So that's this one here, and then you just want to click there, hit the escape key a couple of times, and there we go. We have one of our components in place. Now, I know what you might be thinking, well, that's a really awkward and slow way of applying components, and you're right, it is. But don't worry about it. It's actually quite quick going on from here, because once we have one in place, there's this really useful tool called the repeat tool, and that allows you to repeat this component along this whole these two surfaces. So it basically works like sort of an array tool, but for these adaptive components. So when you click here on repeat, wait just for a moment for Revit to kind of process and calculate everything, but as soon as it's done calculating how this surface is going to work, or these two surfaces are going to work with the component applied kind of in between them, it's just going to create our whole construction. So and when it's done, it looks like this. So there we go, we have our construction. Now of course keep in mind that you can do this with angled surfaces. It's just a little bit more work, a little bit more things to kind of set up properly, but once you're done, you have a whole whole space frame that looks like this. Now what you can do as well is you can select this whole thing. Now as you can see, it's just a one solid piece of space frame, and it's going to say repeater. But if you remove repeater here, if you click here on remove repeater, everything is going to stay in place, and then you can just adjust all of these individual components manually if you want. So there you go, that's how you create this space frame. And then of course you can select the top surface and apply another repeater here on top that's just going to kind of complete this whole look. So for example, if I were to go here to file, go to new, let's then go to family. Again, let's go with the generic model adaptive, open that up. Now for this one, I'm just going to have 4 points, so just go with 4 points, select them all, make them all adaptive, and then repeat the whole process of connecting them using spline through points and is reference. Again here as well, and finally here. There we go. So once we have this, we can also add 1 point just like that, and then on that point let's set that work plane. Make sure to go to circle, draw on work plane, and then here let's make this, I don't know, like 100 millimeter. That's okay. Select the circle, select the whole frame using the control key to add the selection, and we have something that looks like this. So now we can save this, so let's save it. We can call this one top of space frame. There we go. Load it into the project. I think this is family 3. There we go. And then you just want to go here 1.2.3.4. And then we can select this and again use the repeater to kind of repeat that across this whole thing. And now we have our perfect kind of surface. If I go to realistic, yeah, so we have our perfect space frame we have that grid on top, the grid on bottom, and it's interconnected as exactly how it should be. So there you go. That's how you can create these complex space frames using the adaptive component tool, along with this really unique repeater tool and just a couple of surfaces. And again, as I said, you can use curved surfaces, you can use this in those applications, but there is a bit more work just to calculate everything and figure everything out. But in the end, you have something amazing and unique such as this.